how's it going? It's Jeremy with the Backyard Bourbon Broadcast. This is episode 12. Today we cover college football playoffs and the band room door at John Evans Junior High School in the late 80s. This is the Backyard Bourbon Broadcast. Hey there, Backyardigans. It's Jeremy with the 12th episode of the Backyard Bourbon Broadcast. Today is brought to you by Maker's Mark. Cheers to Maker's Mark. Hey, just a couple days ago, I had a great friend in town, one of my best friends, actually, in elementary school, middle school, junior high, high school, and beyond. And it was great to see him. He is now in the Air Force, has been in the Air Force for almost 20 years, I believe. And so it was cool to see somebody successful versus myself. Anywho, we got to talking, and he had several guys that he works with him, and we were trading stories, and I was regaling them with the tale of the band door that I'll get to here in a second. But so today we're going to talk about the junior high band door, John Evans Junior High, and we're going to talk about anything else that crosses my mind in the 10 minutes of madness that you'll get. The other thing was the college football playoffs came out last week, and I believe it's a sham. Alabama is in it, though they did not win their conference championship. In fact, they didn't even win their division, but they're in it. And, I'm not an Alabama hater. I really could care less. I just think that their brand got put in the playoffs versus their play. I think what the electors were looking at were things of they were looking at what Ohio State didn't do versus what Alabama did do. You know what I'm saying? They didn't look at what Alabama did. They looked at what Ohio State didn't do. And one thing they didn't do is beat Iowa. And I think they got beat by like 30 points. That looks bad. That's fine. But how does that automatically put Alabama in? There's no other choice. What weight does the conference championship play? As that's one of the first things that it's listed that they review, that they consider when making this decision. I mean, the whole college playoff thing was to take out personal opinions out of this, and yet here we are again. So just a little miffed at that. Not that my team is anywhere near it, because my team did a fantastic job of making sure they weren't going to be in it. So it's not like I have a team that was up second place for that. But anyways, I just think it was dumb that Alabama got in. And like I said, it's not because I hate Alabama. I don't care. I have a friend or two. I think I have two friends that are Alabama fans, and they always start running their mouth and talking trash. But I don't hate them. And how can you argue with all the championships Alabama has? I can't. So I don't hate the school. I just think it's bogus this year that they got in without winning a conference championship or even their division. That's lame. So go Auburn Tigers, whoever you're getting to play as a consolation. I guess in full disclosure, I do root for War Eagle over Roll Tide when the Iron Bowl comes around. Anyway, okay, back to the band door. Went to John Evans Junior High in the late 80s, and it was quite the experience. It's probably anybody that's been in junior high has ever said about junior high. Anyway, to keep myself on track on this story versus other podcasts, I'm actually going to read the story I wrote years ago about this incident on the band door, and hopefully that keeps me on track. So basically what would happen is we would get on the bus that would bus us into the junior high, and it was a shady junior high from my memories. Now, I'm sure it doesn't like measure up to like East LA or Compton or something like that, but it wasn't a friendly place. The bus would drop us off, and here comes all these band geeks with our band instruments, and we're standing at the door waiting to get in, and the band teacher was not the nicest of guys. In fact, I think he was involuntarily retired due to his temper and his inability to teach children. In fact, why he was allowed to teach is beyond me. He definitely wouldn't be teaching today, but back in the 80s, that was perfectly acceptable to pick up a chair and throw it and yell at your students. That was how you taught. So there we are. Several of us would, in true celebration of our First Amendment rights, jot down our opinions of Mr. Pritchard in no uncertain terms upon his band door. The expressed opinions, though varied and vulgar, were always quite creative, and I think even Mr. Pritchard would agree with that. I also think he would agree that, although his name bore the brunt of angry 8th grade prose, several of us showed promising talent for writing careers had they been nurtured properly. As they were not nurtured properly and were then left to find humorous ways to debate the legitimacy of his birth and question his sexuality, Mr. Pritchard's band door became a thermometer of band geek opinion and was later identified to be a contributing source of Mr. Pritchard's high blood pressure and foul mood swings, as well as his early retirement, as I mentioned earlier. The only person who refused to take a part in the editorial assault was also the only person who would eventually get caught, and that was my bestest buddy in the whole wide world, Miles Middleton. Ironically, out of all of us standing at the band room entrance, I think Miles hated Pritchard more than the rest of us combined, and Pritchard wasn't even his teacher. Miles was in orchestra, and I think the only reason he stood with us was because the odds of a fight with Pritchard were good. But although he hated Mr. Pritchard, he deplored our lowbrow graffiti just as much. As a good English boy, he preferred a head-on-head fight with his opponent. As I had Irish roots, I felt it my duty to inform the Englishman that I didn't give a fiddler's fart about his English ideas on combat, nor did I particularly care for the banging of drums on the 12th of July. He, in turn, expressed his opinions of the sewage system that is the IRA and how Scotland hands Ireland its arse in a beauty contest, and although we heartily agreed on the former, we violently disagreed on the latter, and Weld County came this close to a smaller version of the troubles plaguing Northern Ireland about the same time. One day, as we were all penciling in our thoughts, Miles had had enough. He grabbed a pencil from Dusty Mortensen, told us to knock it off, and started quickly erasing our 8th grade observations. All of us stood shocked at the pace Miles was both erasing and scolding, and about that time is when Mr. Pritchard rounded the corner. The crowd of band geeks parted like the Red Sea, and with a loud yell, Mr. Pritchard said, "So that's the guy that's been riding on my door." He grabbed Miles by the back of the shirt and dragged him to the principal's office. For a second, we all continued to stand in shock. Finally, Mortensen said, "We got to start erasing," and 3 or 4 of us quickly removed every last word. About 1 minute later, Pritchard came marching Miles back to the band room, complete with Windex and a dirty towel. When they got to the door and saw that all the comments had been erased, Mr. Pritchard told Miles, "Well, son, I think you ought to be thankful for the great friends you have to have cleaned up your mess so you didn't get in trouble." Miles looked at each one of us for what seemed an eternity and simply said, "Oh yeah, great friends." From then on, the editorial page that was Mr. Pritchard's band room door was authored by just one very angry and very vengeful English boy. And that's the story of Mr. Pritchard's door. As I said, he acquired an early retirement soon after, and I don't know if he even lives in that same town. I wouldn't blame him if he doesn't. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope the story came across. It was funny when it happened, and it did actually happen. Almost word for word how I describe it here. Next time, we will discuss the hell, hot dogs, and hand grenade story that goes along with our time in junior high. Basically, we had an epic food fight with the most aerodynamic of school cafeteria foods, the corn dog. So, tune in next time to hear that one. Hope you have a great week. Good talking to ya.